Over the years, I've met many different types of car guys, and the chances are in this video, you might even be one of these yourself. This video is just a joke, so don't take it too seriously, but I thought it'd be quite fun to talk about some of the, car enthusiasts I've met over the years. The first one, and probably the most annoying in my opinion, is the Spec sheet warriors. Now, you'll usually find these at a car meet or most likely online, and 90% of the time, these guys won't even drive a car themselves. Or the car they do own, literally, it's nothing special. I was there with my friends, and we all had Miatas at the time. I still have mine, obviously, but a lot of them had Miatas as well. Anyway, this guy comes over, and his car was a stock Fiesta, right? Nothing, just a standard Fiesta. And he basically starts criticizing our Mazdas because they're slow, they're not fast, all this and that. And then he started listing the sort of cars that he would have bought instead of the Mazda, for the price, because they have a faster 0 to 60 or whatever. But, completely missing the point that we like our cars because they're fun to drive and they're small and they're good at handling, not for the 0 to 60. If you're buying an MX-5 for the 0 to 60, I don't know why. unless you're gonna engine swap it or put forced induction into it. This car is not about speed, but obviously, he was so into his stats and what other cars that, he would get for the money, that he wasn't interested in why we actually liked our cars. Usually, spec sheet warriors are younger car enthusiasts because, they've not actually owned an enthusiast car yet and they don't understand that it's not all about speed. Because at one point, I was definitely a little bit like this when I was a bit younger, but, now I've obviously moved on from that. I do just want to say, if you're new here, please consider subscribing. It's free and you can always unsubscribe at any time. But look, I would really appreciate it, so please subscribe. Anyway, back to the video. The next car guy I have to talk about is the project car guy. The project car guy, yeah. Bit of a mouthful, but basically guys who have a project car and they actually know how to work on it. I actually picked up a bass guitar with my friend from Facebook the other day, and in this guy's garage he had an old 240Z. Well, it was actually more the chassis of one. It was more like a shell, but this guy knew what he was doing. He had shown us all of his previous project cars. He used to have an old 60s Camaro, and he used to have a wide body 350Z. This guy was a proper car guy. Like, he was a proper enthusiast. He knew his stuff. But what I found with these guys is they know how to weld. They know how to take an engine apart and put it back together. Like, they are not shy or afraid of any challenge. And the thing is, these guys are usually a little bit older because back in the day you had to learn how to work on your car. But to be honest, you do get younger car enthusiasts like this as well. One of my friends who I really want to do a video with has an old Series 2 Land Rover from the 70s, and he's welded on that thing. He's rebuilt the engine twice. He's actually owned that thing since he was 17. But when something goes wrong, he's gonna fix it. He knows how to work on that thing. Like, he's dedicated to that car. And a lot of people like the idea of a project car. They'll buy something that needs fixing up and then they'll sell it because they realize that it's actually a lot more effort than they thought. But buying just a shell or something that needs heavy restoration and actually going for it and learning how to do it and taking the time and effort to properly put something back together, or even build something, they will swap an engine out, or they will fit a turbo or supercharger themselves. And sometimes you get guys who they kind of in a way look forward to their car breaking down. Not really, but they enjoy the challenge of fixing it and that kind of thing. I would love to one day get to this level, especially doing an engine swap. I would love to eventually put a K20 or something like that in the MX-5, but it takes a lot of time and skill. It takes another level of enthusiasm, which I really respect. The next car guy I need to talk about is the detailer / cleaner. I don't know what it is, but these guys just love cleaning their car. They love detailing it. They have every single type of cleaning product there is available. But detailing and cleaning the car properly is actually quite the skill. They get their panels on their cars to look like actual mirrors. The reflection and the way they wax it and everything is it's actually quite insane. It takes a serious level of detail, but at car meets they'll probably be cleaning their car, and they might even have a detailing business. But yeah, I do not know how they have the patience for it, because for me, I don't know, when it comes to cleaning my car, I just want to get it over and done with. But these guys probably spend their time polishing and detailing their car. They spend more time doing that than driving it. It's definitely something I wish I was more interested in. Of course, another car guy, which is probably one of my favorites, is the track purist. Now, this guy is all about the driving. He doesn't really care about how his car actually looks. You know, he doesn't really care about comforts or anything like that. He just wants a pure track car, and he loves taking his car to track or autocross. He probably has an MX-5 or an MR2, maybe even a stripped E36, but he's definitely got something that, yeah, you know, the car is 100% stripped inside. Like I said before, this guy is not going for comfort. And I've met a few guys like this, and I am so shocked because a lot of people will daily their track car. You know, instead of regular seats, they'll have bucket seats with harnesses. The car will probably have a roll cage and, you know, a quick release steering wheel. The exhaust is probably, you know, pretty loud, but you know, they absolutely love tracking their car, and there's nothing wrong with that. They're more into actually the driving part of being a car enthusiast. And it's funny because a lot of us are car enthusiasts, but not a lot of us are driving enthusiasts. And these guys are exactly that. You know, there's a reason why cars like, you know, the Caterham 7 and manufacturers like Lotus exist. And they're exactly for these types of guys who want track-ready cars. You know, they want a car that's going to be ready for the track. And you have to hand it to these guys because, you know, they usually are really good at driving. I mean, one of my friends, he loves taking his car to the track, and like I said, stripped out cars, a stripped out E36. It's nuts. And he is a serious driver, you know, he is a really, really good driver. And that's because he's a, you know, a driving enthusiast. He's taken the time to learn more about how to become a better driver. I would say I'm more of a car enthusiast. A lot of us who are watching this video probably are as well. You know, we spend more of our time learning about cars. And the funny thing is, a lot of these guys, they don't know too much about cars. You know, they won't know the trims, the models, all this kind of thing. But they're more interested in the driving side of things, which I think is really cool. And like I said, it's another car guy I do really respect because, you know, they're in it for the love of driving. I actually met a guy who owned a Honda Jazz, and it was fully stripped, like a proper track day car. And he was, you know, basically telling me how, you know, he just needed something that was easy to work on and fun to drive. You know, all he needed, it was fully stripped, like, you know, the back seats were taken out and everything. Absolutely wicked car. You know, I would love a Jazz or a Honda Fit with a K20 in it. That would be insane. But, you know, this guy still had the standard engine in, roll cage, like, it was such a sick car. But yeah, definitely one of the best car guys you'll meet. Now, one of my least favorite car enthusiasts, but I still have to respect them because, you know, they are still a car enthusiast, and that is the electric car enthusiast. And the thing is, even though I don't agree with them, even though I'll try, you know, to never own an electric car for the longest time. I mean, I probably will have to one day, but yeah, I'm not a fan of electric cars. But, you know, these guys, they love the speed. You know, they love the 0 to 60 times. They love the fact that it's, you know, quote unquote saving the environment. Especially if they're a fan of Teslas, they probably are a fan of Elon Musk. But you know what? They love an electric car. They love the tech inside of it. They love an electric car, and they do probably beat anyone in a race. To be fair, and yeah. Even though they are into electric cars, they are still a car enthusiast, but definitely annoying. Overall though, depending on what car guy or car enthusiast you are, you know, at the end of the day, you're still into cars. But please let me know what kind of car enthusiast you are down in the comments. It'll be interesting to know if I've missed any out. And like I said before, please consider subscribing. It's free and you can always unsubscribe at any time, and feel free to like as well because that does help out a bunch. Anyway, I'll make sure to see you in the next video. Ciao for now.